What's up, guys? We're here to go over UFC Vegas 69, Santos versus Blanchfield. They've moved the main event around that was originally on this card. Um, it was originally Marlon Vera and Corey Sanhagen, I believe. We've actually lost quite a few good fights off this card. Joe Selecki, Benoit Saint Denis would have been good. Gerald Mearshart versus Abus Magomedov. Jim Miller, Gabriel Benitez, Carlston Harris, Ramiz Brahima. Those would have been all entertaining fights. Uh, Kind of sucks because this if those had been included in this would have been a pretty decent card. It's still all right though. But we'll start down here at the bottom. We got Jamal Emmers taking on Kusin Askabov, and so this Askabov guy, he's really good. This is his first fight in the UFC. But and he's also been out for almost 3 years, so that's a little bit iffy there. But I mean, he's super talented. He's got the wrestling. He's a pretty good striker. Throws pretty good combinations. Pretty good kicks. Um, got good control. Top control. From top position. It's pretty well rounded. All the way. Probably hasn't fought the best of competition. He's got a lot of fights, against guys with small records and stuff like that. But he's pretty good, and he definitely deserves a shot in the UFC for sure. And he's taken on Jamal Emmers. And if this fight had been up at featherweight instead of bantamweight, I actually probably would have took an underdog play on Jamal Emmers in this spot because Askabov's been out for almost 3 years, and he's yeah, he's a normal bantamweight. I mean, Jamal Emmers is a big guy even for featherweight, and he's cutting down to bantamweight now. And I can't see I can't see him making the weight. He's a pretty big guy. He's a really good fighter too. He's put on quite a few good performances. He's had his hiccups throughout his career and stuff, but he's had a little bit of a rough run in the UFC. But I mean, his first fight was against Giga Chikadze, so I mean that's not no easy debut. But he's a pretty talented fighter. His last fight, he lost to Pat Sabatini by heel hook. But he is 33 years old, 5'10", with a 74-inch reach. We don't have the reach right now on Oskabov, so um, not sure there. I can definitely tell you that Jamal Emmers is probably definitely going to have the reach advantage, but I can't picture Jamal Emmers at bantamweight. He's a pretty big guy, so it'll be interesting to see how he does, and it might still be worth the shot. I don't, man, like I said, if it was up at featherweight in this spot, I would probably take a shot on Jamal Emmers here, but you know, um, it's still a little bit iffy, not because we don't know what Askabov's been doing. He's been out for almost 3 years. Um, we don't know what he's going to look like coming in here. I'm sure he's going to come in looking great. He's really talented, and I'm going to go with Askabov to get the win here. I don't think he's going to finish Jamal Emmers, so probably by the unanimous decision. But I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in, lacking because he's been out for so long and drops the ball and Jamal gets him. So I said I wouldn't put any money on this either way because there's a couple of iffy things on both sides. But uh, it's definitely an interesting fight, and I'm definitely excited to see what Askabov can do in the UFC. So looking forward to that. And I'm sorry, guys, feeling a little bit under the weather today. And I meant to get this video out to y'all sooner, and I just I had to put it off because I've been not feeling too great. But next up, we got AJ Fletcher taking on Thimba Gorimbo, and AJ Fletcher is 26 years old, 5'10" with a 67-inch reach. He's 9-2, and he's 0-2 in the UFC. But he's a really exciting fighter. He made a good account of himself against Semmelsberger in his debut. He did catch that first round. Kind of impressed me a little bit. In his next fight, he had a crazy fight. Just a war with Angelusa, and yeah, he lost that fight, and he showed a lot of. He did almost get a finish, in that fight for sure. But he showed a lot of a lot of heart, but it looks like he's kind of have the cardio issues. But I don't really know if he's got cardio issues because the pace of that fight and what was going on in that fight, I don't know if anybody could have been useful in that third round because he was just out of there. But he's a good fighter. He's talented, and he was pretty hyped coming into the UFC. Just hasn't quite got that, got the fight that puts him on the map yet. Aside from looking like he could take a beating in his last fight, but it was a good fight, and he is talented, and he often has Dustin Poirier in his corner. Um, he's a pretty exciting guy, man, and almost all of his wins have been by finish. He was undefeated before he came to the UFC. He doesn't have very long arms for the weight class. He usually gives up quite a bit of reach. Um, he hits real hard. He's got real powerful leg kicks. He's got pretty good double leg takedowns. He's pretty explosive. I believe he's trained under Tim Kruder, the same guy who coached Dustin Poirier. So he's at a good gym. And he's surrounded himself with good people. Um, if it he throws a good step in elbows. Um, he needs to move his head, like when he enters the pocket more. He's kind of being that he's got to get in so close because he doesn't have a very long reach. He gets caught coming in a lot, and he doesn't have the best head movement going in. He's going to be giving up close to 10 inches of reach in this fight. So, yeah, scary thought. Um, and he's taking on Themba Gorimbo. He's 10-3. He's 32 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 76.4-inch reach. And, this is a UFC debut. He's a really long, rangy guy. And, he's got good ground and pound from top position from what I saw in the few fights I was able to watch of his. He's got really long limbs, so, he can, like, really get a lot of torque on those shots, from the top position. He throws good straight shots. He can get wild at times, but, he does know how to use his reach a little bit. Um, he it's hard to get him off once he's got top position because he's got long limbs. He can kind of keep you down. Um, I'm gonna say that from what I've seen, Gorimbo didn't didn't look as good as I would have wanted him to. In the few fights that I watched of his on Fury, and it's not he's not getting finishes. It's all unanimous decisions. He does get the takedowns and kind of win fights that way sometimes. Um, and it's I don't know. The only thing that scares me is the reach. In this spot. I definitely think AJ Fletcher should be able to get the win here. Um, I think he's going to need to get the takedowns. He's going to need to take him down, keep him down. He needs to keep Themba down. Themba's got too much reach for Fletcher to be playing around on the feet with him, for 3 rounds. So, um, as long as he sticks to the plan and works the takedowns, I think he should be able to get this fight, or at least get the takedowns in the first round or two and tire Themba out. So I'm gonna go with AJ Fletcher. Do I think he gets a finish here? You know, Themba hasn't really been getting finished. Um, I'm gonna say AJ Fletcher by decision in this spot. So next up, we got Ovince St. Preux taking on Felipe Lenz. And Ovince St. Preux is 39, almost 40 years old now. 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. He's 26-16 overall. He's 14-11 in the UFC. So we all know what Ovince fights like nowadays. He's at this point in his career, he kind of stays out of harm's way and lays back and tries to do just enough to get a decision. Um, he doesn't do anything too crazy anymore. He doesn't take a lot of risk. He was able to get that decision over Shogun Hua, but honestly, he could have lost that fight. It's not that big of an accomplishment at this point since Shogun just retired after a knockout loss last week, and Shogun was bringing it at least in that fight. So I could have seen judges giving the fight to him. Ovince St. Preux does have good Von Flue choke. He does have power. If he would push the pace more, if he would if he would try to be more offensive instead of just defensive, I might have picked him in the spot. Um, he is talented, but he's up there in age, and he's his only wins here lately have been I guess he got Malonzo Minifield, but that was back when Minifield was like pretty brand new. Um, he's got two finishes before his Shogun Hua fight. Um, back in the day, he was a really talented fighter and fun to watch. And I just think kind of now he's kind of set to the point where he's just trying to get a paycheck. And like I said, he doesn't risk it. He fights pretty smart, but it's always like that's going to bite him in the ass against somebody like Felipe Lins here. Um, Felipe Lins is 37 years old. He's kind of up there in age. I didn't realize he was getting up there either. He's 6'2". He's got a 78-inch reach, so he's going to be giving up a 2-inch reach advantage in the spot. He's 15-5, and he's 1-2 in the UFC. With his as two losses, I believe. He was fighting up at heavyweight. Yeah, he was fighting up at heavyweight, and he's back down to 205, and he looks a lot better at 205. He belongs at 205. He looked very fast in his last fight. Um, and he's got a lot of good power. He's going to need to push the volume in this fight for sure, which he does have pretty good volume. And just push the pace, the octagon control, and he's got pretty good fast combinations. He does have good submissions for a light heavyweight. I don't know if I see him putting Oven St. Preux away here. Um, Oven St. Preux, he's been fighting pretty safe lately. I think OSP is probably going to stay out of harm's way for the most part, but due to the lack of volume and zero forward pressure, he's probably going to get cost a decision here. But I wouldn't be surprised if Felipe Lins gets a knockout. But I don't see him chasing down Oven St. Preux too much. But I definitely think he's going to win on the volume. And so I got Felipe Lins in this spot. Um, I kind of want to say by knockout, but I'm going to go with decision. Yeah, I'm going to go with decision on this one. Next up, we got Lena Lansberg taking on Maria Bueno Silva. And Lena Lansberg, Elbow Queen, is 10-7. Or wait, she's 40, almost 41 years old. 5'7" with a 65.5-inch reach. Um, she's 10-7, and she's 4-6 in the UFC. She's fought a lot of good competition. Her UFC debut was against Chris Cyborg, so you can't really fault her for that loss. Cyborg's a beast, always has been. She's currently on a 3-fight losing streak. She's almost 41 years old now. She's got a good right hand. She dropped Carol Rosa with that in her last fight in the first round, and she's got pretty good Muay Thai. That's what she was known for before coming over to MMA. She's like a champion, in Sweden or whatever. And she doesn't have very good takedown defense and has a lot of problems getting back up with somebody's on top of her. So she does struggle with the grappling quite a bit, which is, she's taken on Myra, Myra Bueno Silva. And she is 31 years old, 5'6", with a 66.5-inch reach. So she's going to have an inch reach advantage here. So she's 9-2-1, and she is 4-2-1 in the UFC. She's got great submissions, lots of submissions by sub on her record. She submitted Gillian Robertson, which is kind of a big deal because Gillian Robertson's a really good grappler. She won that grappling tournament against Rose Namajunas in like 65 seconds. So she won her last fight against Stephanie Egger by armbar. She did have a loss to Marion Farot. Not a bad loss, because Farot's pretty good. I think she's going to get a title shot pretty soon. Basically, I see Silva getting the submission here for sure. Probably pretty quickly, first round. She'll be able to get the takedowns, and she'll get a submission for sure on Lena Landsberg, probably in the first or second round, I think. Going with Silva here. Next up, we got Juan Camilo Ronderos taking on Clay Carpenter. Juan Camilo is 28 years old, 5'4", with a 64.5-inch reach. He did miss weight in his UFC debut, but I believe that was on super short notice against David Dvorak. He's training out at Extreme Couture. He's quite possibly the shortest male fighter on the roster. And he's pretty close to probably the shortest reach on the roster. 64.5 inch reach is pretty small. Um, he didn't get much going against David Dvorak, but David Dvorak's really talented. He's a really good fighter. He's up in the rankings. Juan Camillo is pretty explosive, pretty fast, and he's got good hands, but he does struggle a lot with the grappling. I noticed that, and probably the three fights that I did watch of his that I could find. Um, he's kind of jumped in the deep end too early. He probably should have had three or four more fights before he fucking jumped into the UFC against David Dvorak. But he's got a lot of promise. Honestly, it's just I think he's got to get some a little bit more time in and get some more fights under his belt, and he'll probably look pretty good later on down the line. He's got the right scrambles. He does find his way up a lot, but he does get taken down a lot, and he really does struggle with the grappling. And he's taking on Clayton Carpenter. Clayton Carpenter is 26 years old, 5'6", with a 66-inch reach, and he is 6-0. This is his UFC debut. His fight on the Contender Series, he went through some adversity in the first round. He's fighting a guy that was way bigger than him, and he took some shots. He got busted up a little bit in the first round, but he ended up coming back and getting the win by a unanimous decision. And he started training karate and judo at like 5 years old. This is all he's done his whole life. He's been competing in martial arts. He's got great striking, good submissions, good head movement. He's super fast, good front kicks up the middle. Fast combinations. He's a pretty good counter puncher. Uh, he looked pretty good. From what I've seen, and I could tell you there's definitely a lot of talent there. Uh, he switches stances real well. He's pretty good from both stances. For sure, I got to go with Clayton here. I think he can get the takedowns if he needs to, but he's fought the way tougher opponents. He's got better. Fought the better competition. You know, um, yeah, I got to say I got to go with Clayton Carpenter here for sure. And he's a pretty big favorite in this spot. You know, which I'll give y'all my bets or what I got so far at the end here. Uh, and Next up is a fighter that I'm really excited about. Nazim Sayedkov taking on Evan Elder, and Nazim is 28 years old, 5'10", with a 69-inch reach. He's 7-1. This is UFC debut. Um, his fight on the Contender Series, man, he just destroyed that guy. He was just putting on a show. It looked great. Um, he was a master of sport and combat sambo, lifelong martial artist as well. Over 100 amateur fights. Big power, lots of good kicks, great elbows from top position, great counter puncher. He's really comfortable anywhere the fight goes. Yeah, he's really impressive. He pushes a really good pace and he can keep it up for 3 rounds. And he's got good spinning wheel kicks, nice uppercuts. There's just so much to like about this guy. He's really good. He's really talented. He's going to go a long way. Yeah, I'm super impressed and excited to see this guy in the UFC. Um, so he's taking on Evan Elder. He is 25 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach. He's 7-1. This is going to be his second fight in the UFC, I believe. Yeah, he's 0-1 in the UFC. And he fought at welterweight in his debut, but he actually belongs at lightweight. Preston Parsons was way bigger than him, and he's got a good straight right. When he throws, he's a little bit wild sometimes, but he's a pretty good fighter. I think he'll look better in his natural weight class. I don't honestly know if he struggles with the wrestling or if it was just that Preston Parsons is way bigger than him. He's got good timing on his head kicks. He definitely understands when to throw them. I saw him get real close on Parsons with a couple of those. He just barely, just barely. Parsons was barely able to block it in time. I expect Sadkov to be the better fighter everywhere it goes. And I'm gonna say he's gonna wind up with a KO, and I'm gonna go KO round two with Nazim Sadkov, the Black Wolf. Next up, we got John Parisian taking on Jamal Pogues. And John Parisian is 33 years old, 6'4", with a 79-inch reach. His record in the UFC is he's 2-2 in the UFC, and he's got okay takedowns for a heavyweight. I mean, it's kind of sloppy, but he's not a very technical striker. He's got a pretty good he's got a little good gas tank. There's not a lot of things that he does like really super well or that he's like really an expert in, but he kind of can just like wear on guys, and especially he makes like a good account of himself. Late in the fight if it gets there. Whereas his opponents will usually be quite a bit tired in the third round. Um, like his takedowns are good enough that if you're not up to par, he can exploit you there. But he hasn't gotten any wins over any really high level heavyweight. Yeah, his only wins are over you know like Alan. Who is he take? Dontel Mays beat him. His last win was over Alan Badeau, and he had a win over Rocky Martinez, a split decision win. He's got a loss to Parker Porter. Um, out of all that group of guys, I'd say Josh Parisian's one of the, you know, just under Parker Porter. He's taking on Jamal Pogues. Jamal is 27. He's 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. He's 9-3, and this is going to be his UFC debut. Sorry, things are just not going right today, guys. So he used to be a light heavyweight. He used to be in a lot better shape. Um, he had won a fight on Dana White's Contender Series in 2019, but he wasn't signed because he was just kind of using his wrestling and his takedowns. I guess it was kind of a boring fight. Um, he's got a really good jab. He's got good power. Um, he's got a really good 1-2. He's pretty fast with his hands. As long as his takedown defense holds up in this spot, he should win. He'll be the faster man. I got him to win by KO. I'm gonna say in the second or third round. But it'd be nice. I'm hoping one day we'll get to see him at light heavyweight again. That's where I feel like he belongs. Next up, we got William Knight taking on Marcin Prachnio. William Knight's 34 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. He is 11-4 and 3-3 in the UFC. He's real powerful and kind of relies on his power to make up for what he lacks as far as like his, like instead of it being like a smooth takedown, he really like muscles guys to the ground. Um, you know, uh, it's just I don't know if that makes sense, but he's got a lot of power in his hands as well. He does tend to gas out, probably because he kind of muscles everybody around, uh, and he throws with everything, and he's coming off back-to-back losses, one to Devin Clark and the other to Maxim Grisham. Uh, you know, he's he usually has quite a big problem making weight. He weighed in at 251 pounds his last time out, and I believe that fight was supposed to be at. I don't know if it was a catch weight. I thought it was supposed to be at like 205, but um, so now all that being said, you'd think that I'm picking against him here, but he's taking on Marcin Prachnio. He is 34 years old. He's 6'3" with a 74-inch reach. He's 15-6, and he's 2-4 in the UFC. Now, sorry, voice is going out on me. Um, so as far as like who I really want to win, I would say I want Marcin Prachnio to win. I just kind of like those guys that like, kind of karate style. They're always fun to watch. I always wanted him to do well in the UFC. He's just kind of had a rough run. Uh, he was a really exciting finisher before he got to the UFC, and he's got good power. He's got good striking. It's just after he got finished a few times, he started fighting with a lot more caution. Which is good and bad at the same time because it's cost him some decisions for sure, but it also keeps him from getting knocked out. I'm going to be picking William Knight in this spot, but if he has trouble making weight, I'm going to probably switch my pick for sure. Because if Knight isn't in shape, he's going to gas out. Prachnio's going to hit him with straight punches all night till he falls. But if he's in shape, he may get the takedowns and work the ground and pound and So I'm gonna go William Knight by finish, maybe. uh, Unfortunately, with the fight that we were gonna have next was Jim Miller and Gabriel Benitez, and that would have been a really good fight. But instead, we got Zach Puega taking on Jordan Wright. Um, Zach is 34 years old, uh, 6'2" with a 76-inch reach. He's 5-1. He's 0-1 in the UFC. He's actually a pretty talented fighter. He's really good. He was winning the tough finale fight until he got caught at the beginning of the second round with that big punch. I don't think anybody could have survived that punch. His strengths are definitely his speed and his explosiveness, and his striking is really good. He's got good combinations, good head movement. This fight's going to be at light heavyweight, which I believe is the weight class that he is actually, supposed to be in. He was on the Tough Show. He was a heavyweight. And we'll have to see, if he can make the weight. He's got pretty good volume, pretty good footwork, fast kicks, but those were all advantages that he had at heavyweight. So we'll have to see if it carries over to light heavyweight or if he's even faster. But he's a really good fighter, and he's got a lot of promise. So he's going to be taking on Jordan Wright. He's 31 years old, 6'2", with a 77-inch reach, and he's 12-4, and he is 2-4 in the UFC. So we got one fighter going down a weight class, one going up. And Jordan is another one of these fighters that I want him to win. He's the kind of karate guy. He's exciting. He always puts on exciting fights. So I don't know if his chin will be better at 205. You know, can't count on it. Not after all the times we've seen him KO'd, unfortunately. He's got good striking and stuff, but not the best head movement. He definitely has cardio issues. Maybe that'll be better for him at 205. I don't know, but I can't really count on him here after all the times we've seen him, getting finished, and it's just hard to pick him in this spot, and he's definitely. I'm gonna give Zach the pick here, and probably by first round KO for sure. Sorry, it sounds a bit rough today, guys. I'm a little bit out of it. Um, and in our main event, we got Talia Santos taking on Aaron Blanchfield. Talia Santos is 29 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. She's 19-2, and let's check out our record real quick. She is 4-2 in the UFC, and she is her last fight was to Shevchenko. So, yeah, I mean, that was a pretty impressive, performance that she put on against Valentina. She looked real good. She could have possibly won that decision, on another night, if it was been different judges or whatever. But she's really good. She's got pretty good takedowns. She's got good submissions. She's got pretty good, a little bit Muay Thai, striking. Really well rounded, and it's hard for me to pick against her after putting on such a good performance against the champ. Everyone's going with Blanchfield here. 61% on Tapology. Aaron Blanchfield is 23 years old, 5'4", with a 68-inch reach. So they got the same reach. She's given up 2 inches of height, but she's 10-1. And I believe she's 4-0 in the UFC. She's on a four fight win streak. And she's a very talented wrestler. She just kind of, wiped the floor with Molly McCann. Made Molly McCann look like she didn't belong. Took her down real quick, submitted her like it was nothing. I don't think she's going to be able to do that to Talia Santos in this spot. I kind of want to pick Blanchfield. I'm pretty sure she's going to wind up being a pretty big favorite in this spot. I don't remember what the line was, but after Talia Santos put on such a good performance against the champ, I'm not going to pick against her. I'm gonna say she gets this fight by decision, for sure. So that's all my picks, guys. And then as far as bets go, let me see what I got right here. Got them all wrote down. Okay, so I got a Nazim Sadkov. I got him at minus 250. It's kind of a high line for a guy on his UFC debut, but I definitely think he is one of the for sure picks on this card. And this line just came out, so um, yeah, I caught him like right then. I imagine he's going to be a pretty big favorite towards the end. Probably going to end up being like a minus 500. Um, and the other pick I had Felipe Lenz. I got him at minus 130. It's a light heavyweight fight. There's always a risk in that, but I feel pretty confident that Felipe Lenz should get the victory here. And then I had a two-man parlay on Zach Puega and Clayton Carpenter, because Clayton Carpenter is like almost minus 400 favorite. And with the two of them together, because they're both pretty big favorites, they're both like minus 300 something. I got the parlay at, what was it at? It was minus 151 on that parlay. So for the two-man parlay, so got Nazim Sadkov at minus 250. I got Felipe Lenz at minus 130, and then I got a two-man parlay of uh, Zach Puega and Clayton Carpenter that's minus 151. And if there's anything else more, guys, I mean, I'll post them on my Instagram. I usually do like a little video, before the fights with any bets that I might have added or whatever. So that's what I've been doing. Most people don't ever watch those. They just watch these videos. They don't really care. But, and if y'all watch my results from, the Derek Lewis UFC 68, because I record these early, guys. So UFC 68 just happened a few days ago. I already got the UFC 284 video out, and I put up a results video, the betting results video for my UFC Vegas 68 card, and I posted a picture of a 6-fight parlay on there that I end up cashing on, and I don't ever put those up because usually they never hit those big parlays like that. I usually only do single bets or two-man parlays, but if y'all are interested in that, want me to post those, just comment below and I'll start putting them up. I usually only put them up like the day before the fight because I can't really decide. It just takes me a few times. I usually make a couple of them, and I usually only put like $20 or so on them. Because just trying to get that little bit of extra cash. But I appreciate you guys. Sorry that I sound horrible today, and y'all have a good one, man. And don't forget to check out Chris Lytle's podcast. I just did an interview with him. It's called the Lights Out Podcast. Um, and don't forget to check out my stuff, guys. If you want to listen to me on Spotify or Pandora or Rumble, I'm on several of those, iTunes. So if you would rather do it that way, I personally like watching YouTube videos myself. So I don't blame anybody, but I'm there, and so is the Lights Out podcast. So if you want to check that out, please check it out and check out that interview I did with Chris Lytle. Man, he's a legend. Appreciate it, you guys. Thank you.